Hello, and welcome to Classic Movie Recaps. Thank you for watching this video. Just a reminder, if you enjoy our content, remember to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more sexy favors. Now without further ado, let's begin. The movie begins as we see two teens in East LA making their way through the streets at night. The teens belong to the 11th Street gang, and have been drinking, so feeling brave, they venture into a dangerous neighborhood belonging to another gang. They finally arrive on enemy turf, but one of them gets nervous, and decides to go back, leaving his friend behind. The other teen doesn't back down though, and looks around to make sure the coast is clear, before crossing out VGV on the wall, and tagging 11th Street's mark. Unfortunately, he suddenly hears laughing and turns around, seeing Chuco, a member of the VGV, Barrio Grande Vista, and realizes he is completely surrounded by the enemy gang. They question him on where he's from, and he remains silent, so they beat him down, but lucky for him, Raymond, an ex-VGV member, approaches the group, telling them to let the kid go. The teen runs off, and the gang celebrates, while Ray looks at the 11th Street tag. Chuco, who is Ray's little brother, picks up the spray can and crosses out the 11th Street gang's tag, before they finally leave. The next morning, Ray is at home working out, while Chuco talks to him about exercise through the window, and tells him to get ready for a job interview he's organized for him at his worksite. They soon arrive at the car yard and enter the office, where the manager asks Chuco about his life, and it's revealed that Chuco was expelled from school for carrying a knife, which he's also brought to the interview. The manager asks for the knife, telling Chuco never to bring it to work, before giving him the position, so they begin customizing a car's interior, training Chuco on how to do the job. Later that day, Ray is cleaning his car, while Chuco is inside ironing a shirt. It's Friday night, and they'll be heading to the boulevard for a night out. Ray tells Chuco to hurry up, and they pick up Shady, Ray's girlfriend, before making their way to the boulevard. Everyone is out on the strip, and the street is filled with lowriders, which have beautiful artwork, and can bounce from hydraulics. They cruise on the boulevard when the VGV see Chuco, and call out for him to join them, so he leaves Ray's car, and meets his friends. Unfortunately, some 11th Street members are in a car close by, and see the VGV, deciding to follow them to get revenge for beating up the teen earlier. Meanwhile, back in Ray's car, Shady wants to go to a restaurant, but Ray wants to organize a challenge at bouncing cars, so he tells her to wait 5 minutes, and organizes the challenge, putting some money down for the event. He gets back in the car, but Shady gets out and slams the door, before the hop begins. The cars begin bouncing, while the crowd looks on, and Ray emerges as the winner, taking the cash prize, before realizing Shady has left. He runs off to find her, and sees her sitting alone, before apologizing for getting carried away, and they make amends. Back on the boulevard, the VGV are having a good time cruising, when suddenly they spot the 11th Street members staring them down. They ask what neighborhood they belong to, and when they find out they're 11th Street, violence erupts, and a brawl ensues between the two groups. A bystander runs to get Ray, telling him the two groups are brawling in the street, so Ray runs to the scene, but one of the 11th Street members pulls a knife out on Chuco, and they struggle on the ground. Ray finally arrives, pulling Chuco off the attacker, and they realize that the 11th Street member has been stabbed, when police begin to arrive on the scene, with sirens approaching, so Chuco runs off. Ray crawls under a van to get away, and gets into a car with girls to hide, so when the police start searching the cars, they see Ray as a playboy, and let him go, hopefully to get a sexy favor. Later that night, Shady is tending to Ray, when they begin to have an argument on Ray not having any ambition, still cruising, and not wanting to get a better job. His mom enters the room, and tells them that Chuco's been arrested, so Ray tells his mom not to worry, but Shady tells him that she wants to break up, as she's done dealing with the nonsense. In the next scene, Chuco is at the police station, and is being processed for release. He tells the guard that he's big VGV, and the guard tells him that every set is the same, before Ray enters to sign the release forms. On the way home, the car is silent, and Chuco tries to explain himself to his mom, but she brushes him off, telling him she doesn't want to hear any explanation. When they arrive home, Ray talks to Chuco, asking what happened at the boulevard, and Chuco tells him that 11th Street started the fight, but police don't know anything. Ray asks if 11th Street think Chuco stabbed their homeboy, but Chuco tells him it doesn't matter, before Ray leaves. The next day, Ray goes to Shady's workplace to make amends, and waits for her at reception, before she comes out, and he invites her to dinner at a fancy restaurant, which she accepts. At the dinner, he explains that he loves cars, and that's who he is, but he will try to be a better partner, open up his own shop, and asks her to marry him, so they get back together. Meanwhile, back in the barrio, the VGV are heading back to their hangout, but when they enter, they find one of their members battered and bruised, and he tells them that it was 11th Street, so they leave immediately to get revenge. They cruise into 11th Street, and find the home of one of their enemies, getting out of their cars, and approaching cautiously. Suddenly the front door opens, so they hide behind trees, but it's only a little girl. They approach the girl, and tell her to give a message to her brother, writing down VGV on her hand, and telling her to say hi to him when he gets home, which would definitely psych him out. They leave victoriously, joking about their tactic, before Chuco arrives home under the influence. He lies down on his bed, when a gun is pointed in his face, but it's only Ray, who asks him where he got the gun. Chuco tells him that he lied when he said he didn't have a gun, and Ray questions him on what he did the night before, but Chuco avoids the question, and Ray wonders what he's going to do with him, before Ray leaves. In the afternoon, Ray visits Shady's house, and her parents congratulate him on the proposal, before he takes her to work. Later that day, Ray returns home looking for Chuco but can't find him as he didn't show up for work, and we see that he is in an alley with the gang, and they are hanging out, using paint to get a buzz. Ray finally finds Chuco, and approaches him, before grabbing him, pulling him away from the group, and forcing him to leave. He takes him to work, and tells him to tell the boss he overslept, which he does, but when they begin working, Ray finds that Chuco messed up the work, so they have to start over. Ray then argues with Chuco over using the paint to feel a buzz, that it affects his memory, but Chuco tells him that he shouldn't have pushed him in front of the gang, which embarrassed him. Later that night, Chuco is with the VGV, watching a car approach, prepared for a brawl, but realize it's just a neighbor. Big Happy then tells the group that he can get some guns cheap, and they talk about 11th Street, before he tells Chuco that they'll finally get him a tattoo the next day. In the morning, the gang head to meet Old Man Diaz, who does tattoos in the neighborhood. They head inside and Chuco sits down, showing Diaz a picture of a snake he wants as a tattoo, so Diaz begins. Meanwhile, Ray and Shady are in a department store, picking out a wedding dress. She picks out a dress and they leave, but as they're walking, an 11th Street member drives by, and sees Ray getting in his car, recognizing him as a VGV. We then see Ray and Shady entering a vacant house, which Ray has bought, and they reminisce about how they first met, but Ray thinks about his brother, and tells Shady he doesn't know if Chuco can leave the gang life behind, and he's worried for his safety, but Shady reassures him, so he prepares to give her a sexy favor. Back at Diaz's place, Chuco is getting the tattoo, while the gang talk about 11th Street and reminisce on old friends. Meanwhile, Ray is leaving the new house with Shady, when some 11th Street members spot him, and begin approaching them. Ray tells her to get in the car and lock the door, when they walk up to Ray, and ask him where he's from. Ray tries to answer their questions, but they're looking for a fight, so they hold him back, and punch him in the stomach. The leader tells him that 11th Street is king, but Ray surprises them and punches the leader, but before it continues, the leader tells Ray that they know who he is, and to tell his brother that they're after him, before they leave. Later that night, Ray is on the boulevard, when he sees his brother with the VGV, and Ray tries to get Chuco to leave with him, but Big Happy shows him Chuco's new tattoo, and invites him to take on 11th Street with them. Ray refuses to join their fight, so Big Happy tells him he's a Chavala, before they leave. The VGV then head to 11th Street, and trash a car belonging to one of their enemies, breaking the windows and slashing the tires. Big Happy aims at the front door with the shotgun to watch their backs, but Chuco keeps hitting the car getting carried away, before they get in the car and escape, leaving the car totaled. The next day, Ray is having his lunch break at the car yard, talking to a buddy about the boulevard scene going downhill, while Chuco is outside, and gets into a fight with a customer. Everyone rushes in to break it up, including the boss, and in anger, Chuco punches his boss by accident. The boss then fires Chuco on the spot, telling him his work is lousy, and he suspects Chuco of stealing, before he walks off. Ray then tries to talk to the boss but it's no use, as the boss is enraged. He then goes to talk to Chuco, and Chuco tells him that the customer was 11th Street, and Ray tells him that it doesn't matter, and he's acting like a kid. Chuco sticks to his guns however, and tells him he's a man. He won't let anyone push him around, and he doesn't care about the job, before he leaves. The next day, Ray and Shady's family are at the wedding rehearsal, but Chuco hasn't shown up, as he's supposed to be involved in the ceremony. We then cut to Chuco later that night, walking aimlessly through the streets, and we can tell that he's conflicted about where he's headed. He enters his gang's hangout, and pets a cat, before laying down for the night. The next day, Ray gets married, and it's a big celebration, with lowriders lined up outside, and everyone enjoying the show. Later that night, they are all celebrating the wedding at Ray's house, and Ray dances with Shady inside, before the party dies down, and Ray says goodbye to his friend. However, as his friend leaves, we see a car approaching the house slowly, and before Ray enters the house, he turns around to see Chuco, who is too ashamed to go inside, as he didn't attend the wedding. Ray asks Chuco why he didn't go to the wedding, and Chuco says that he wanted to go, but he's too ashamed of his recent behavior. They make amends, and Ray takes Chuco inside, and their mom tells him to dance with her. They begin dancing and are enjoying themselves, when suddenly, we see a gun being aimed from outside the window, and a shot is fired, hitting their mother. The gunmen run off, and Chuco chases them, but he runs out of breath and fails to catch them. In the next scene, a funeral is taking place for their mother, and after it's over, Ray tells Shady to get a lift home from a friend, and tells Chuco to get in his car. They go for a drive, and Ray tries to get as much information on their mother's killer as possible, finding out what car they were driving. They then pick up some guns from Big Happy, and it seems like Ray is returning to his gangster ways. Big Happy asks what he's doing with the guns, and Ray tells him it's a family issue. Big Happy tries to get involved, but Ray tells him to sit down, before they leave. They then head back to Ray's place, and when they enter the house, Shady asks what the gun on Ray's hip is for, but Ray tells her to pack her bags and go stay at her parents' for a few days. He then goes to a room with Chuco and tells him how to use the guns, before the doorbell rings, and Ray answers. It's Gil, Ray's boss, saying he hasn't heard from Ray in a few days, and wondering if he's okay. Meanwhile, Shady enters the room to talk to Chuco, and grieves over her current situation. Gil finally leaves, and Ray and Chuco are waiting for night to fall before they make their move. We then see Chuco pacing back and forth, while Ray is laying down with Shady, when Chuco sneaks out of the house, and takes his car to make the attack on his own. Ray hears the car start, and looks outside, seeing Chuco leave. He immediately rushes inside to prepare, while Shady begs him not to go, but he can't be reasoned with, so he gets in his car and chases Chuco. Chuco finally arrives at the 11th Street hangout, when one of the 11th Street members heads out to take a leak, and Chuco takes him hostage. The 11th Street gang come outside, looking for their friend, when Chuco approaches, asking about his mom's killer. They refuse to give him any information, so he takes another member hostage, while one of them holds a shotgun at him. He gets the location of the killer, before telling them to drop the gun, and forcing them inside, locking the door and making his escape. Meanwhile, Ray is still looking for Chuco, when he sees his car speeding past, but is blocked by traffic. We then see Chuco, exiting his car, and walking to the killer's property. He knocks on the door, and kicks the door in, looking for the killer, but is attacked from behind, and they begin fighting. The killer runs out the back door, with Chuco chasing him, but as Chuco leaves the door, 11th Street members fire on him, hitting him in the shoulder. The killer thinks he's dead, so he pauses, but Chuco aims his gun at him and fires, hitting him in the back as he runs away. At this moment, Ray arrives and pulls up in his car, while the 11th Street members pull back. He ducks down, and gets to Chuco, and asks if he's alright, before they get in his car and speed off, but as they make their escape, shots are fired, and one of the bullets pierce the rear window, hitting Chuco in the neck. Ray tells him to hold the wound, and he tries to race to the hospital as quick as he can. He keeps asking Chuco why he left without him, but Chuco says he did it for him. They finally arrive at the hospital, and Ray rushes in, before doctors come out and tend to Chuco, putting him on a stretcher to take him inside. We then see Ray signing a form for a police officer, and getting a coffee, before he leaves the hospital and gets home, telling Shady that Chuco is dead. We then see Ray sitting in his backyard, admiring the view of the city, before Shady comes out, resting her head on his shoulder, and the movie ends. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a fantastic day.